Cigna is one of the largest insurance companies in the world. It has revenues of about $34 billion and employs about 31,000 people. Prior to this study, their tuition reimbursement program looked like a lot of other ones. Maxed out at the IRS taxable limit of $5,250, which everybody knows that number, of course, and it had a pretty broad sort of impact. So anybody who wanted to come and join the program, receive the reimbursement, could, and they could study just about anything they want at a number of partner institutions. There's about 30 to 50 institutions that they've negotiated some discounts with. They have about a 3.7% utilization rate, which is right about average, which is between 1 and 5% from the companies who measure that. So I want you to keep all these statistics in mind before we tell you what the results were, because this program does not look anything at all like what Cigna's program is now. So Breck's going to talk a little bit about what we actually found.
Okay, the drum roll stops. So at the end, the results were pretty positive. It came out for every dollar that they spend on these programs, they don't only make the dollar back, they get $1.29 in addition to it. So it's 129% on every dollar they spend. So Karen's reaction, along with the rest of her cohort, sat there and said, we knew it had an impact. We just didn't know how much. And then as we dug into it, we also found other things. 43% wage increase is what happens with folks who participate in the program versus those who don't. Mm-hmm. Some of the savings is derived by much greater reduced retention issues. Money not spent, having to go find new talent to fill positions that have already been vacated when they didn't have to be. So there's a full life cycle around what the real benefits were, what the percentages were, and making it so that it was actually very defensible. And the best part is not only that these results were real and very documented, and we had umpteen number of reviews to make sure everybody understood what the numbers were, but it was actionable. Because not only did we collect the data and pour it in and have a model that told us the numbers, we also did a number of focus groups and interviews to give the contextual understanding of what's going on here. Do people really say what they mean? Do folks give us input and feedback that say they enjoy the programs and why? And how does that all come together? With that insight leads to the actions they took.
Right. So I'm going to point out 10% increased promotions for program participants, a 7.5% greater chance of lateral transfer, new opportunities within the company, and 8 percentage point retention rate. All of this resulted in incredibly large cost avoidances for Cigna, which enabled the return on investment. So what did they do? I'll point out the quote from Karen at the bottom, where she said, "This insight is really important for us to be able to more strategically direct and design our program to meet our needs." So what did they do? They increased the level of the financial support available to people when they study particularly relevant fields. So you're talking for an insurance company, things like actuarial science, cyber technology, programs like that that have a lot of meaning within that particular workforce, as well as a trajectory into the future, right? So not programs that are going to be obsolete in 3 years. They increased to 10,000 for undergraduate degrees and 12,000 for graduate degrees. They've also ensured that people don't have to pay out of pocket, which if you really think about it, it's incredibly hard to write a check for $10,000, no matter how much money you make. What they've done is organize partnerships with institutions that are not only providing discounted rates, but enable people to pay after they complete, after the reimbursement comes through, so that people don't have to put their money up front. They're on the hook, of course, if they don't complete, but that's what we want to incentivize. I think that's a really important thing that Cigna did as a result of this study. Finally, and I think this is also really important, they've increased the level of support services. They're calling it advisory services for people who are going through this program. Because we all know that just being a student, just being a worker, just being a parent, those kinds of separations in life don't happen. So they're really providing the kind of assistance, support, guidance, matching, advice, every kind of factor you'd ever want to see on the job. So people are connected, they're empowered, and they're able to make the right decisions at the right time. So of all of the results we found, yes, obviously positive ROI is great. These factors actually show that they took that to heart and are making a difference. We're very excited. Karen said, Yes, it's just more, but it's better. And I was very pleased to read that. So yes, we know that the bottom line, their ROI was positive, 129%, all of these great factors. We think Cigna, as a result of this study, is going to be able to make some much better decisions on the part of themselves, their shareholders, and their workforce. But before I go on, I just want to make sure that you know why we're telling you about this right now. We know that about 8% of employers currently measure the ROI of their programs. We want all employers to measure the ROI of their programs, because if you're getting a return of 129%, I want to invest in that. I wish I could invest in that. Certainly doing better than the 3% I'm making right now, right? We know that the workers involved received much greater benefit from the wage side. So we know that this is not only reaping rewards for the company, it's reaping rewards for the community and the employee, him or herself. Finally, if a company's results are even half as great as Cigna, that means tuition assistance doesn't look like a cost center, it looks like an investment. And we need to really start thinking about how we can incentivize, reward, encourage those kinds of investments. We have lots of room for growth for many more companies, many more employees to reap the dividends of this kind of investment, and we're very excited to be doing 4 more studies, as we mentioned earlier.